Let's throw our hands in the air
Woo-hoo.
as we soar through the sky.
Yatta.
We'll catch the sun
Woo-hoo.
with your hand in mine. And
Yeah.
if we work as a team, everything will be fine.
Yeah!
Oh, it's Cure of the What Now.
Let's henshin and start the show!
Hello, fellow makeup historians, and welcome to Cure of the What Now, the one show where we know the second someone tells you your writing is bad, that's when you give up. There's no point after that. My name is Kat, I'm the host of the show, and what am I this week? It's a really existential question, listeners. Every week, at least once a week, you should sit down and you should ask yourself, who am I?
Is it possible that you braided your hair following a makeup tutorial? Maybe put
Yeah,
on some lipstick
that's who I am. I'm a girl who braided her hair.
And what episode of Cure of the What Now is this?
Oh, heck, I don't know. Is it 28?
It's 28.
Yay, welcome to 28 of King of the What Now. Cure of the What Now.
Cure of the What Now.
Here's the weird thing. We combined 2 episodes, and so that threw me off on the counter.
Except now we're actually more on the right count because we had 1 week where they didn't have Tropical Rouge. So now the episode number matches up with the episode number.
Oh, okay. Who is this mysterious voice talking to me?
I'm Joel. I'm the co-host. And you know what? I have partied so hard. I am exhausted. All of that energy has left me.
What were you partying about?
We finally had an episode that was about a character! Woo! Oh my goodness gracious. I have 2 quick announcements. One of them isn't even related to Cure of the What Now, but one, the audio was weird in the last week's episode. We mentioned it in the Reddit post, we mentioned it in the YouTube post, on the Twitter, and so on the Twitter, I sound like an old person. The point is, we did some testing, and this episode should sound fine. And if it continues to sound garbled, I don't know what I'm going to do. Cry, probably.
Ask the podcast Facebook group.
Yeah, absolutely. The second thing is that we now have a new nickname for our lovely puppy. It is the Black Triangle. Black, of course, because that's the color of her fur. She's mostly all black. There's a little bit of white on like her chest and her paws. But triangle because when she does that play pose that dogs do where they're kind of like bowing and their butts in the air, I've never seen a puppy whose face goes so far down to the ground and whose butt goes so high up in the air. It's a perfect triangle.
My dad is constantly laughing that she has a high-rise butt. So, I don't know why that amuses him so much, but it does.
Dads are just inherently silly.
Also, we've mentioned this a couple of times. Sometimes the puppy just has to chew on a bone while we record because that's better than having her squeak in the background the whole time. So if you can hear tiny chewing sounds, it's because she decided that the floor was not good enough for her. Oh no, she has to sit in my lap and chew this stick of cheese.
And the more power we give her, the more she will demand from us in the future. It's like if you give a mouse a cookie situation, if you give a dog a chance to be heard on the recording.
Oh, heck. She wants to be on the podcast. She's slowly edging her way into being a full-time host.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gosh, that's tricky.
Yeah, so going back to the episode, we learn a little bit about Minori having written a story for the literary club. Something tells me we've asked this question before, but whatever. We know the characters better now than we did then. In a slightly different universe, where the Tropical Club members, as we know them now, were members of the literary club, what sort of stories would they have written and submitted for the cultural festival?
Well, they would definitely have written stories that, in the context of the literature club, make your heart go doki doki.
Yeah, absolutely. You think so?
Just Laura. No, but I like the idea of Sango writing spooky ghost stories.
Oh, really?
And Manatsu's like, I know you're my friend, but I don't want to read them.
Oh my goodness, that would be great. I was about to say Minori could write a ghost story, but that doesn't fit with what we know about her. She seems more like the fantasy genre. Fantasy has ghosts, but not spooky every time.
Manatsu's story would start about one thing, like it would be like just an adventure story, but she would get sidetracked constantly, and Minori would be reading it and she'd go, by chapter 3, you introduced 327 characters.
You need to focus a little bit better. I don't know if all of our listeners have participated in National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, or read about like the philosophy of book writing, but there are agreed to be basically two groups of people who write books. There's by the seat of their pants writers, also known as just like pantsers, and then there's people who meticulously plan ahead of time, and Manatsu is a by a seat of her pants. So she would introduce plot points in like the first couple of chapters that would seem like they're foreshadowing, but then they would kind of go away by the end. Maybe if she watched like a new Discovery Channel program over the weekend, she would start including like those animals more heavily in the text and that sort of thing.
Asuka would pretend that she was writing like a badass martial arts story, but she's actually writing a romance.
Okay, yeah, I really like that.
She's deeply, deeply embarrassed. It's an anthro bunny romance between a bunny and a fox.
Oh, okay, yeah, absolutely. I like Sangha writing ghost stories and kind of tormenting Manatsu with it a little bit, but I also, you brought up Doki Doki Literature Club. I could see Sangha writing like a book of poetry. That could absolutely be pretty good. And Laura would write a Mary Sue character that is also a self-insert. She would have this character who is popular, has very few flaws. Any negative consequences that happen are the results of like bad actors or people out to get her because they're so jealous. And she'd be like the head of a rock band, but also an undercover spy at the same time.
Laura read Twilight, and she thought, you know what would make this book better? If I was in it.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Also, got really confused because I thought you meant Twilight Sparkle. I'm like, what do you mean read Twilight? Like, just watch the episodes that she was in? Or, anyways.
I love that you hated that series so much that it's just, like, burned out of your brain.
It's just, it doesn't come up in conversation very often with me, you know? We are more likely on this podcast to bring up My Little Pony than we are to bring up,
Do you want to know something terrible?
What's that?
So, recently, I can't remember if she still called it Midnight Sun or if she changed the title, but the Edward Cullen point of
Stephanie
view...
Myers, yeah.
Yeah, was officially released. And a friend of the podcast and I were talking about it, and we go, didn't everybody read that when it was leaked back in, like, the mid-2000s when she decided not to publish it because somebody leaked the whole thing?
Maybe, yeah. I would assume, this is not a Twilight podcast, but I would assume that it's been long enough that there's now a new crop of teens and preteen girls who would love to read that story, right?
It feels weird that we haven't had, like, a mass sensation in a while. Like, yeah. we had 50 Shades, and before that was Twilight. There was Hunger Games for a while, but we haven't really had anything that's, like, hit off all of the teens and all the teens' moms in a long time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Is that about it for the discussion question?
I think it is. Do you want to succinctly summarize episode 28 of Tropical Rouge PreCure for me?
It would be my duty and my honor, my queen. This episode's kind of weird because I feel like there's like the plot and then there's like the character intrigue. But basically it's the Aozora Middle School culture club, or no, not culture club, culture festival. So each of the different clubs and each of the different classrooms are doing different stands. The judo club is doing like a grilled teriyaki stand or something like that, I think, and the
grilled squid.
Grilled squid, that's right. The Tropical Rouge Club is doing like a history of makeup and also like a makeup tutorial for anyone who comes by. The broadcasting club's going around recording different booths and that sort of thing. It's all great. But really the focus of the episode is actually on Minori, and people, especially Laura, are starting to wonder like why she isn't in the literary club and if something has been bothering her lately because she's spending all of her time reading. So that's the actual focus of the story. And we find out that the reason that she left was because she poured her heart and soul into the story. She submitted it to be put in like a magazine that would be distributed at the cultural fair, and her senpai was basically like, this story isn't very good. And
it doesn't have any real world experience in it.
Yeah, exactly. So she got basically writer's block or like self-doubt or maybe like imposter syndrome, some version of that where she hasn't been able to write sense. But now that she's joined the Tropical Club, she's starting to open up. And that's pretty cool. Also, it's very important to mention that Chongi-re shows up like 5 minutes into the episode. He's about to throw the Yarne Da not cube, sphere, ball, marble,
Those
whatever
are
it is.
different shapes.
They are indeed.
I'm no math expert, but I believe if you consult the geometrists.
But anyways, right as he's about to throw it, he gets hit in the claw hand with a baseball and he drops it. And while he goes to look for it, he gets roped into the judo club's grilled octopus, you said it was? Squid stall. And he ends up being a huge hit because he can cook really well. But then he finds the orb, and instead of being like, I had a lot of fun today, he goes, I'm going to mess up their stuff. And that's been your succinct summary.
It was a beautiful succinct summary. Did you like this episode?
Yes, it was actually about a character.
Thank goodness. Again, I do feel like, the episodes always have either Manatsu or Laura taking the lead, and we still had Laura taking the lead on what's going on with Minori.
That's just because they're girlfriends, though,
That's true, but at least it was about Minori. I am a little confused because I remember from her introductory episode, she had a flashback where someone was yelling at her about, why would you waste your time writing this garbage? So I thought it was going to be a parent wanted her to focus on her studies or serious things rather than writing fantasy. But now she's told this story about her senpai just didn't think it was very good. So I'm wondering if the flashback has just been canceled, if they've rewritten canon, or if that'll come into play somewhere else.
Fair enough. Is it possible that you are misremembering?
It's possible. It's not probable.
Okay.
We can go back and check, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting. I wonder if the end of the season is going to be she starts writing again. Maybe she's slowly gathering her courage, or maybe, like you said, she's gaining life experiences by... There was a moment where she had to interview for the broadcasting club, and everyone else was like, whoa, Minori, we didn't expect that you would have that kind of courage, but she found the courage anyways. So maybe at the end of the series, she'll kind of compile her ideas into a new story that is not as bland.
Maybe she will, because it's about her gaining life experience, right? That's why she was willing to do the drum many episodes ago when they were doing cheerleading, and that's why she stepped up to do the interview, because she's trying to learn more about life outside her bubble. Maybe she will take her experience with Laura and she'll write a story about a mermaid trying to become queen.
The really haughty mermaid instead of the really hungry caterpillar.
So, I have to ask, Minori and Yui, best friend writer-illustrator duo?
Maybe. I think that they could get along, and most PreCure characters, as I've said before, are fated to get along with each other, even if their personalities seem like they might conflict sometimes.
You can't talk today, huh?
No, I can't. But I could see there being slight friction between Yui and Minori, where maybe they have different artistic opinions or ideas of where the product will go. But I think in the end, if they learn to work together, they would make a phenomenal book. Absolutely.
Has any other season of PreCure other than Go Princess had that background pony who's kind of a part of the team but not really? Or is it just Go Princess that we've seen so far?
Not that I can really remember. Witchy had the girls from the magical world who showed up for 2 or 3 episodes, but one of our big complaints was that they never actually did much of anything.
Right, whereas Yui was actually part of things, and she had an arc, and she got Zetsubo'd 3 times.
4 times, I believe.
4 times.
I saw in
Yui,
Reddit.
Babe, please. Stop it. Stop getting Zetsubo'd. But this is not a Go Princess podcast.
Oh man, we could do one of those. We could rewatch from the very beginning.
God, I loved Go Princess so much. If you haven't seen it yet, it is the best season of PreCure. My mind will not be changed. It doesn't matter how many seasons of PreCure I watch. And I know I said that after watching PreCure Ellen Mode, but Go Princess is super good.
It is very super good, and you should definitely watch it.
I liked this episode a lot. I thought that there were many moments of humor and good character interactions, and I liked Minori's growth, so I was on board. I liked that Manatsu was kind of a background pony in this episode. We didn't see much of her, and good, go be quiet. Go sit in a corner and chew on a stick.
She's not a puppy.
Get in the kennel, Manatsu.
So what, you mentioned humor, what was one of your favorite jokes that we haven't covered?
Chongi-re.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, to give a little more context to the scene, this stand is selling grilled squid, and one of the guys goes, "Boss guy, there's a problem. I called the mascot store to get us a squid, and all they have is a crab." And the guy's like, a crab? But we're selling squid. And they go, no. They said that they would give us half off because there was a double booking and the squid's no longer available. So he's like, fine, I guess we'll have a crab mascot. And then they see Chongi-re and they assume it's a guy in a crab mascot costume, which remarkable. And they carry him away to their stand. And the next time we see him, he's cooking squid like lightning fast. And they go, wow, you sure are amazing. And he goes, I just hate seeing people cook seafood poorly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and then there's even a part, so Manatsu and Songo and Laura have their classroom stand where they are, what are they making? They're making like omelets or something? They're making a food.
Crepes.
Crepes. Thank you. But they also have their tropical club responsibilities on the rooftop, but one of the classmates called in sick or something, and so they couldn't man the station for the next hour. So Manatsu and Laura go down in order to help sell all the crepes. And so it zooms out and it turns out Chongi-re is the next stall over. And so Chongi-re is like, but like with making grilled squid, and Manatsu is doing the same thing with making crepes. I really thought it would be funny if there just was no Zenzen Yorone Da this episode, if Manatsu just like looked over and they had decided to settle it based off of who sold more food or something like that, like they competed with him.
What if Elde or
Dr.
Numeri had showed up and had been like, you're taking a really long time, and he'd been like, I gotta get these orders out, and they'd be like, fine, I guess we'll do it, and they'd toss the Yorone Da for him.
Oh my goodness. Do you think that Chongi-re has Kira in the things that he cooks?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that he cares enough about the cooking that it would happen.
And that's the weird thing about the villains for this season, is they are themselves pretty motivated for their specific thing. Chongi-re especially. I think Dr. Numeri lags a little behind him, and then Elde, she's motivated to be a brat, I guess. But
she'll grow out of it, maybe.
At some point, they have to have the realization, like, we're stealing these people's motivation, but they deserve to be as passionate about cooking their squid as I am,
Yeah, I know that we have said that there are certain areas that Tropical Rouge kind of falls flat for us, but Star Twinkle and Kira and not necessarily Go Princess as much, but these villains seem to have like actual motivations behind like why they joined the bad guys. And not every villain needs to be complex. I can't remember what video I was watching on YouTube, but someone was saying that like some villains can just be evil for the sake of evil if it works for the plot. But these three are a little bit too cinnamon bun-esque for it to make sense for them to serve the Witch of Delays. So I hope that we get a story of like Chongi-re got kicked out of the kingdom and he has to serve the Witch of Delays or something because she promised to allow him back into the city or something like that.
Absolutely. Were there any other favorite scenes or quotes that you wanted to shout out?
I don't think that I have any. I hope that Elda's single appearance is put in the thumbnail, but I haven't made it yet. But at one point, the seahorse, the butler, is like, hey, you need to be gathering more motivation power. And the three, goons basically are like, we've been trying, but Elda does this like angry point, like, yeah, it's really hard or something like that. And it was just, it's kind of cute. I don't always like child characters, but she skirts the line for me, I think.
Absolutely. Well, and I liked the scene at the end, and this kind of gets into, reveals or new information. But apparently the Witch of Delays is having nightmares because there's not enough motivation power in the Fool's Casket. And the nightmares she's having are causing earthquakes. So at what point is a tsunami going to threaten to swallow Azora City?
Oh, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about like what the effects would be. I thought that it was like the villains are going to get more desperate, so maybe they'll do like more underhanded tactics in the future, something like that. And not only is the Witch of Delays having nightmares, but she was glowing with an evil aura, so this feels like it's going to be yet another, okay, here's the Zenzen Yorone Da Super Saiyan 2, that sort of thing.
Are these eggs that she's laying?
Oh no, maybe. They kind of look like, salmon eggs.
Yeah, they look like caviar.
So I have a slightly deeper question, I guess, a more overarching question that doesn't have to do with this episode, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so There's a form of literary analysis, I believe it's postmodernism, which is basically that, like, in addition to the text itself, there's also, like, how does the end change the beginning, and, like, what are the influences that went into the novel and that sort of thing. I saw a tweet in the last week or so that was someone on Twitter, I don't have it in front of me, saying that I don't like it when people complain that Tropical Rouge is now the blank character hour. So I think that that's probably Manatsu Laura Power Hour would be the complaint for this season. And they said, people always complain about this whenever a new season comes out and they're only halfway through. Once you get to the end, the other characters will be more fleshed out. So I guess my question, to really boil it down to just like one single question, is it fair to critique or criticize Tropical Rouge where it is now for not spending enough time with Asuka and Sango if they may in fact get more episodes later?
Absolutely, it's fair.
Yeah, I think so.
So, Kira is one of my favorite seasons. I've made that pretty clear. And I've mentioned before, Ivan Hope has a fantastic article talking about Kira, and, well, not directly about Kira, but referencing Kira while talking about another season.
Links in the description, as always.
Absolutely, I will send you that. But Ivan Hope basically says that Kira's problem is that when the characters are not on screen, they cease to exist. So you have no sense of they are continuing their growth and journey when they're not in front of the camera. And so you walk away feeling like, okay, they eventually got their moment, but how does that affect how they behave literally any other time? It doesn't. It's kind of like the Rarity problem, where she learns these big lessons about generosity in her own episodes, but she's still maybe a little self-centered in episodes about other ponies. And so if you look at a season, like I believe the example in Ivan Hope's article is PreCure 5, the characters have ongoing character arcs that exist and continue even when they are not the focus for an episode. So you don't get 28 episodes in and go, I still know nothing about Sango. What is she trying to do? Where is her character going? And so it doesn't matter if they have a single character moment by the final episode. I want that overarching plot, and I want them to be a part of the story for the entire story.
Absolutely. For sure. And like, I've seen a lot of different video analyses and comments online and such about how, like, you can't critique the opening of a movie because maybe later on it will change. Or I had someone in high school who told me that I was not allowed to critique Twilight because I'd never actually read it. And it turns out they were slightly better than I thought they were, because I did take her up on the challenge and read it in order to see what my opinions were. But overall, you know, you can tell certain aspects of something from the opening scene or from that scene or whatever. And I think that there's a difference between saying this is definitively the problem with Tropical Rouge as a whole and saying this is the problem so far in Tropical Rouge. Maybe it'll get fixed later, maybe it won't. If we get to the episode 48 or however many episodes are in the season, and Asuka and Sango have episodes that really flesh out their characters better than they already have, I will still probably say those middle episodes really lacked content for those characters.
Yeah, we're over halfway through, and we still haven't really gone anywhere with them.
Yeah. And I mean,
even the focus characters, I'm sorry to interrupt you, even Manatsu and Laura has her moments where she develops as a character, because as I've said from the beginning, I really feel like this is a show about her learning what it means to be a leader and learning how to not be such a selfish brat.
I used to wonder what queenship could be.
Exactly. But Manatsu really hasn't had any serious growth. She's just sort of the driving force behind the episode happening, if that makes sense.
Catherine, if they give Manatsu growth in every episode that she's in, by the end of the series, she'll be like 8 feet tall. Okay, you don't want a
giant lady. We're all about the PreCure giant lady.
The prophecy has been fulfilled.
Oh no, I sat on Laura.
What show was that where the person's emotions turned them giant? Oh, Rick and Morty had an episode about that. And I'm almost positive that The World God Only Knows also had an episode on that, but I don't think you got far enough in to see that episode.
No, I never got to the point where the girls got weird. You know, like at the beginning, they were normal girls. who had the demons inside them, but I'm pretty sure they get superpowers at some point, right?
That all tie into their psychological trauma. Yes, I would absolutely recommend World God Only Knows. I don't think it gets as fan servicey as other rom-coms, and it has some excellent humor.
There's a good episode in the first season about an idol, and I really like the song that she sings. Her name is Canon, and so the song is about a love cannon, and it's like bang, bang. I like it a lot.
Absolutely. No, I agree, and I would say in a lot of series, the main cure, the lead cure, usually doesn't get as many episodes that are directly about their growth until near the end, and then they'll have like a moment where it's like, you know, a Heartcatch had like the dark reflection character and or the dark reflection episode, and they had Searching for the Star Twinkle Imagination and Star Twinkle. At that point, you get a little bit more in-depth look into their hearts. But yeah, for the most part, I would say that Minori and Laura are the only two that I could really say, yes, they went from this character trait to this character trait, and that's growth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good discussion question. I think we got a lot of mileage on it. Well done.
Well, thank you very much. Now, we typically cover Futari Wa first. Do you think that's fair this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Futari Wa, they learn that sometimes things look hopeless, but sometimes you just gotta keep pressing forward, and then eventually you can create the hope that you wish to see. There's a new seed of evil that has matured. Her name is Regine. We actually get her name, unlike a dude from last episode.
Muscly man.
Juna or Jura. I know it's J-U blank A. I just can't remember what that third character is.
Yui. She got Zetsuboed.
She got Zetsuboed and sent into the past. But Regine is this, she's the stereotypical, like, hot lady with the long hair and the manipulation powers. She creates, like, an army of mannequins that have, like, fedoras and, like, investigator jackets. It looks super sick, and then they rip off the jackets and they're just generic Zakenas, and I was upset with that. That's how the episode ends. They don't actually use the marble screw and hit the bad guy. They don't do anything. She absorbs the power of a volcano, and that makes all of the Zakena explode.
Also, she wants to fight the PreCure because she has Jock King's memories.
Okay, sure,
and
maybe.
The guy shows up, muscly man, and he's like, no, I'm David Bowie, look at my bulge, you have a job to do. So they leave so she can go absorb this volcano's energy, which makes me wonder, shouldn't he have had something similar in his episode?
He absorbed the tsunami, remember? There was like the big storm and stuff.
I forgot about that. So they're each absorbing a natural disaster to power up the Jock King regeneration device?
Yeah, I guess so. What confuses me is, I would think, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, maybe. Okay, so I have a theory.
Okay.
Jakku King, his body was destroyed, his spirit lives on. That's pretty common for evil lord characters to do in different medias. But what if he's able to use a little bit of his soul power to cause natural disasters by putting pressure on this, like, ley line or whatever it's called that makes the volcano erupt, causes the eruption. But then he also has vessels who can absorb the energy that nature creates. So it's like it's a chain reaction where he tips one domino, and the last domino to fall is a big explosion of power, and then he has people that nom 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 eat up all that energy, and then they can give it back to him.
Okay, I like that. When they get the third seed of power, the three of them are going to form an idol group.
Oh,
and
okay.
Through singing, they will absorb the life energy of the people of this town.
They will have, through the power of song and dance, brought evil into the hearts of every, I don't think I'm allowed to say those words from the producer, but, every criminal, cutthroat, and purse thief in the city.
Let's have a battle of the bands. What instrument would Nagisa and Honoka play? I think Nagisa would be guitar, and I think Honoka would be, like, either guitar or keyboard, but also she'd be the singer.
I can't imagine Honoka being in, like, a rock band. She doesn't seem like... Because the obvious instrument that she would know how to play would be the piano, the violin, the flute. She'd play, like, classy, like, solo opera type music, maybe, or orchestra music. But yeah, I think in a band she could be the singer, or she could just be bass, Because Nagisa really has the I want to be front and center, and Honoka really has the I'm more quiet.
I mean, we do know that Honoka is based. So...
Absolutely. I loved the beginning of this episode. It had nothing to do with the actual episode itself, but it's summer vacation, it's really freaking hot, and Nagisa cannot focus on her homework. She truly is the inspiration for all zero brain cell pink cures later in the series. But she's sitting there, she's complaining that it's too hot. Honoka is trying to give her tips for like, okay, if you spread out like your arms and legs, there you won't gather as much heat and that sort of thing, and like try turning on the AC, that sort of thing. And the fairies are playing. And you have this dynamic between the three. We already covered it last episode, but Poland is the baby brother who always demands that everything be done his way. And Meppel wants to play games according to the rules of the game and gets mad when Poland throws a fit because he's losing. And Meppel is there to be the mom who believes that Poland is always right and is always like, can't you just let him win for the 1,987th time? And Meppel is like, no, I just want to play a game with rules and win by the rules. What's wrong with you? And then while they're yelling at each other, Honoka has this look on her face like, I'm surrounded by idiots.
As Nagisa's getting angrier and angrier. Let me tell you, that scene made me want to take Poland and put him in a little box and fill the box with water and put it in the freezer and freeze him into an ice cube and then hurl the Poland ice cube out the window. Quiet, Poland.
When you started that and you're like, I want to take Poland, I'm like, and put him in a catapult. You got there eventually. You had a couple of extra steps, but yeah, put him in a hamster ball, put him on a catapult, and tell him that we'll see him when he makes his way back.
I'll turn him into a flea, a tiny little flea. But yeah, no, I don't care for the baby characters. I don't like characters that are supposed to be cute. I don't like the cutesy way of talking, and I definitely don't like throwing tantrums. I can't even tolerate tantrums from real children. You know? And like, I know, I've worked with enough kids. A tantrum is a result of adrenaline building up in the body to the point where their body literally can't process it anymore. So it's not even their fault that they're small and their body sucks, but it's annoying. So
Sure.
like, you throw your tantrum over there, I'm going to be over here with my noise-canceling headphones thinking about a time when I didn't have this screaming creature in my life.
I like Poland's design, and I think that when he's not throwing a tantrum, he's all right as a character. But when he is acting as babyish as he can, that's when I get frustrated. But I just love that Honoka, the normally, like, kind of stoic, like, let's keep the peace kind of character, like, you can see that even she is like, I have an angry girlfriend screaming that it's too hot, who won't do her homework, and then these 3 children that are screaming at the top of their lungs.
Yep. I feel like if this were you and I in this situation, you would be the Nagisa and I would be the Honoka.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Yeah.
Joel, why are you being loud now?
But no, this episode, in addition to hitting on like some more serious topics, which we can talk about if you want, but it also has some of the best facial expressions and some of the best humor between the characters.
For sure. So we find out that Honoka's grandmother was alive during World War II, which makes sense. She was a child in the post-war era. And there was a really heartfelt scene of her climbing this hill, and her dad is gone at this point. I assume he died in the war, because there was a scene when she was even younger and he was there in like his military dress. And then at this point in the flashback, he's just not present.
I hadn't even realized it was military dress, but you know what? It makes perfect sense.
But she walks up this hill with all the children of her city, and she gets to the top of the hill and she looks down and the city is gone. The entire thing burned down except for a small portion of her house. And she looks on it and she's filled with despair. And then she realizes, you know, I can't give up hope. But I don't think I've ever seen children's media touch on World War II. And it was such a traumatic kind of thing for the world at large, but for Japan especially in the way that it ended, that I thought this was really well handled. It was very heartfelt.
Yes, I will say that I'm pretty sure that Studio Ghibli has a movie that's specifically about war, but...
Grave of the Fireflies, right?
Right, yeah, but neither of us have seen it, and I don't know if that technically is classified as for kids the same way that PreCure is.
Do you want to know something great about Grave of the Fireflies?
Sure.
So somebody online pointed this out. I didn't realize it, but the box art if you change the contrast enough, you can see a blimp flying overhead. So what originally looks like children watching fireflies is actually children watching bombs being dropped on them. And it's like the childhood innocence isn't actually this innocent good thing. It's actually a bad thing, which is kind of the point of the whole movie as far as I know. I have not seen it. I don't watch things that might make me sad.
Do we want to do a bonus episode on the one movie that I've heard is like unanimously known as the tearjerker?
We could.
We could, but this is not a Grave of the Fireflies episode, nor is it a Studio Ghibli episode. They also have a scene with their upperclassman, I think her name is Akane, who runs the takoyaki stand, and now she's selling shaved ice or something, and she's talking about how the economy is doing bad, and her business she might be going out of business, and it's like, this is PreCure, right? This is a show where, like, they hold hands and shoot rainbow blasts. Like, what is this? It was strange. I don't want to see this become a plot line that eventually gets resolved, and I don't think that it will be. I think it might just be, like, an offhanded explanation as to why they met with Akane and she was selling the snow cones that Nagisa wanted.
Yeah, it certainly was strange. I get the mid-2000s economic anxiety.
Oh, sure.
But also, weird thing to bring up in PreCure.
Could you imagine if, like, you were watching an episode of, like, Steven Universe and they were just like, sorry, Steven, we can't go to the thing because it's, like, the 9/11 memorial this weekend or something like that, or, like, the war in Iraq has really jacked up the oil prices so we can't afford gas. Like, if they said something like that, it'd be like, whoa, what am I watching?
Yeah, we'd all look at each other and... Oh, man. You watched an episode of Kira this week.
Yes, and I should have included this in the announcements up top. I could edit it in. I don't feel like it. From now on, I'm going to try and say how many episodes I'm going to watch next week. There was a week where I watched 3 because I was, like, really into it. I would love to be able to watch as many episodes as possible, but I am not going to remember to tweet how many episodes I watch. So if you're watching along at home, listen to this section. And I'll say, for episode 29 of Cure of the What Now, I hope to watch 2 more episodes of Kira. This last week, I only watched the 1, and it turns out there's an evil Shadow Wolf running around doing Shadow Wolf things.
Diablo.
So it turns out that the wolfy puppy things that we saw in the time travel episode last week was actually kind of foreshadowing. This creature is known as Diable and is Master Noir's most faithful servant, I think is the word that they used. He has come back from his grave, from being sealed away by Lumiere, and he's only half formed. He has the front 2 paws, but his back half is kind of like ghosty, wispy or whatever.
Noir-sama asks, are you sure you can fight them even with your body incomplete?
Yes, exactly. That's the villain of the episode, but the main plot of the episode is that the girls are worried if the bad guys are showing up and they are taking the good energy created by baking and turning it evil and causing destruction via that evil Kira. Should they even be baking? Should they be creating that good energy if it's just going to get corrupted? And they have a shaken faith moment. Ciel goes into the woods where she is spoken to by her ghost brother, who it seems to still be dead, but I don't know. That seems kind of weird.
Very Star Wars of them.
Foreshadowing. You have...
5 shadowing.
You have one more joke like that, and you're out of here. Got it, Mrs.?
I'm out of my podcast.
You're out of the room. You can shout your opinions about PreCure from, like, the street or, like, the kitchen, and we'll see if the mic can pick you up. No, but Himarine and Ao get kind of paired up together, and Ichika's really sad, and Yukari and Akira, are walking around. They all independently decide, you know what, let's keep baking sweets anyway, which is actually kind of interesting, because it parallels, even when things seem hopeless, you can create your own hope from Futari Wa. And that's a theme in many seasons. However, it's interesting that episode 28... the 2 episodes we watched of the 2 shows happen to overlap in that theme. They decide to bake, the dog shows up, he's all like, grr, I'm evil dog, and they go, we will fight you, and then that's it. They beat him by combining their attacks, by believing in themselves, and the crystal animals are able to help, and that's your succinct summary.
Let me tell you, This episode was a hot fart of a disappointment for me, personally. Because I really like the despair moment or the shaken faith moment, and I feel like done well, it can be a really powerful like reinforcement of what the main themes of a show are. But I don't feel like they earned it. It sort of popped up out of nowhere. It's not something that's been building to this point where they realized, like, we're causing the evil to attack this town. And they didn't really address it in any meaningful way. They just sort of shrugged and were like, are sweets empty calories? Nah. And that was it. Like, at least make it a two-parter, you know? Have them all go their separate ways, and then have them realize, like, I'm feeling sad. The only thing that I want to do that could maybe uplift me is baking with my friends. So the happiness we feel is worth also feeling sadness, potentially. You know, you could have had a lesson in it.
And, you know, not to be like the math guy, but there was only one Cure Lumiere. They've got 6 of them. 7 potentially if Bibury is included. By the way, Bibury is now working at the Kira Patissier. Not exactly of her own volition, but she's not exactly against it.
She's working at Ciel's Patissier, but she had to do a shift in the Kira kitchen because she ate all their cupcakes.
She ate like 40 of them. Like, geez, girl.
Yeah, Bibury, calm down.
Listen, I don't care about, you know, people's eating habits, but it just seems like she's an awfully slender girl for packing away 40 cupcakes in one sitting. How many calories is that? But no, so I try not to critique PreCure too much for maybe being a little simplistic, because a lot of media aimed at younger audiences tends to be simplistic. Shout out to Sarsaparillas Productions that has a video about how Ratatouille was not a kid's movie that happened to be animated. It was an animated movie for all ages, and that's why it's one of Pixar's best. But I do often feel that when they have that episode where, like, they lose faith in their dreams and maybe the bad guys giving them all, like, evil eyes or something, or they have to face their dark reflections, most of the time, I feel that the resolution is pretty easy. It's usually the bad guy going, what if good thing bad? And then the good guy goes, good thing good, actually. And then that's it, right? You might get some really cool music that goes along with it. You might get some cool imagery. But in general, when they have those episodes, I'm usually a little like, yeah, this is a show for kids. But this episode with Kira is one of the worst resolutions of the various ones that I've seen from, you know, Go Princess, Futari Wa, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think... I guess you already gave your script, Doctor. You just wanted it to last 2 episodes. What if... Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, the last 2 episodes thing and the have a moment where they legitimately do kind of, like, go home to think about it. They separate.
Mm-hmm. You could have the parents come in. Not necessarily in, like, Aoi's case because her parents are overseas or whatever, but, I mean, she has the butler.
Mm-hmm. Or you could have somebody seeing, like, a kid falls down and another kid hands him an ice cream and that cheers him up. And it's like, oh, we can share our feelings of love with people and cheer them up. And, like, maybe that's what Ichika sees.
Ah,
you know,
okay.
None of them connected sweets to the happiness of the people around them. They just sort of seem to decide, we like making them, though.
Okay. I like that. You could also, this does feel a little bit more end of series-esque, but you could also have them, like, kind of lose the ability to transform or the will to become PreCure, because what's the point in fighting an evil that just keeps getting stronger and stronger? But then eventually Diable could grow so strong in their absence that they feel like a moral responsibility for jumping in. And, you know, maybe they could have like a scene where they all help each other. If I recall correctly, there's an episode of Digimon, it's been years since I saw this particular arc, but one of the characters basically falls into like a depression, and then other characters fall into a depression, but the first one to escape it is able to go in and help the others through their thing. So if they showed up and they're like, we've got to fight the evil, but they're all like half-heartedly doing it, but then maybe like Akira could tell Yukari like, hey, I believe in you, babe, you look great, and then maybe Yukari could like smile and regain her light, and then maybe she could say something to Himurine, who has a crush on her, and then Himurine could say something to Ao.
Yeah, absolutely. A true friend helps a friend in need. God, that was such a good episode. This is not a My Little Pony episode,
podcast,
but
no, it was a pretty good episode. kind of a weird opening, but, I like it.
All right. I'm going to throw some shade at you. Are you ready?
Oh, man.
Yeah, get your spotlight ready so you can scare the shade away. But, dear listeners, I was really, really into My Little Pony when I was in college. It was right around season 2 when I was going through it. And I get to this musical episode, and I'm already excited because I know ahead of time it's a musical episode, and half the reason I watched this show was for these songs. And I'm like, Joel, the season finale is here. You gotta watch it with me. We're gonna sit down. And Joel's like, okay, sure. And Joel is very lukewarm on My Little Pony at this point in our relationship. He watched it because he wanted to participate in the conversations I had with my Little Pony Club friends, which I started in college because I'm a leader of people. But no, so we sit down and we watch it, and he just starts complaining, like immediately complaining. And I pause it and I look at him and I go, I'm excited for this. Shut up or leave.
Listen. All I'm going to say, this is now officially a My Little Pony, whatever that episode was called, episode. It's all about how these friends can help each other, right? So there's a montage of, I can't remember who goes to who in what order, but like Rarity goes to Applejack goes to Rainbow Dash, and they all help each other. I love that. The song is great. I love that. What is strange is that there's a guy who wrote a spell that had no purpose, and it was incomplete, and Twilight tries to cast it, and because it's incomplete, it breaks everything, and the solution is to fix the spell. So the spell she was trying to cast was meant to fix a problem caused by the spell.
Oh yeah, no, the episode was objectively confusing. I just didn't want to hear it when I was excited for it in the moment.
That's absolutely fair. I do need to be less of a sourpuss.
Also, I said season 2, but I think technically that was the season 3 finale.
Because season 2 had Discord show up as the bad guy. Season 1 had Nightmare Moon.
Discord was the opener
villain?
for season 2. The finale for season 2 was Twilight's brother, I think?
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? This is not a My Little Pony episode.
But it could be.
It could have been.
Joel, I have a question.
Yeah.
You are watching Kira at a rate that outpaces our consumption of Tropical Rouge PreCure.
Yes.
So, what is your plan when you get to the end of Kira? Are we going to just end that segment? Are you going to find a series for me to watch? Are we going to start on Star Twinkle?
I don't have a plan. This is your rodeo. My headcanon, my thought was that I would just find the next season that sounded interesting and watch it. Kira was at the top because I knew how much you enjoyed it, and it was on Crunchyroll, and I wanted to support the official release. But once I get caught up, I do plan on... I want to get through every PreCure season and be able to, like, do, my ranking of all yellow Cures or whatever, my ranking of all villains.
I'm so excited for when we get to, like, the 20th anniversary season and we can do a big retrospective on all the PreCure over the years.
2 more years, we got that.
No tweets in a bottle this week. Do you have any theories to send us out?
Well, I actually wasn't quite done with Bibury.
My bad. We're never done with Bibury. She's always there.
No, so Bibury is still being a bit of a prickly pear. Slightly less than she was when she was an evil gremlin. Now she's a neutral gremlin.
She's a soon toga.
Yeah, something like that. But she eats a bunch of cupcakes, and CL goes, hey... Those who don't work don't get to eat the cupcakes, and Aoi corrects her for the phrase. You've pointed out many times that CL is bad at colloquialisms because she spent so long in France. But the point is, she tells Bibury, you can't eat all of our food for free. You're gonna work for us. So she goes in the kitchen. First off, super cute in her patissier outfit. But second off, I love her looking at Ichika and just being like, what's the stupid thing you losers say? And Ichika's like, you spoke to me, Bibury, please don't use evil on me. And Bibury's like, what's the stupid thing that you say? And she goes, oh, let's log cooking? And Bibury's like, all right. And she's like rolling her eyes like some sarcastic teenager who's too cool for this. But she strikes the pose anyways. And she goes, let's log cooking. Bibury, You're amazing.
She brings such intense energy to it, too. It's not just Let's Law Cooking, it's Let's Law Cooking!
Yes. And then, at the very end of the episode, I can't remember what exactly causes her to say it, or maybe nothing is said to start it, but Ciel's like, all right, I'm going home to my bakery. And then she looks at Bibury, just kind of grabs Bibury's elbow and goes, you're working for me now, and then drags Bibury off. And, like, there's a subtext here. I don't know if it's intentional or if I'm reading too far into it, but Bibury XCL is a real thing, has been since they had the wedding Carrie pose a couple of episodes ago. But this really feels like Ciel finding the lesbian who does not know how to communicate her feelings very well or is kind of like tentative, and Ciel being like, you, me, make out, now, back of the stadium, and is like kind of pulling Bibury away. And I just love it.
Bibury's confused, but she's got the spirit. Did you want to touch on anything else from this episode of Kira Kira?
I don't believe so.
How many episodes did you want to watch for next week?
I'm going to be watching 2, so I think that's 34 and 35. I think this was 33.
Cool beans.
Yes.
Send us out with a crack theory. What do you got for me?
The next episode is going to involve Elda playing with her toys, and somehow through magical hijinks, the Tropical Rouge Club members will get sucked in and turn into dolls, a la that episode with Sabrina from Pokemon. And somehow, I don't know yet, but Elda playing with the dolls and them being the dolls and them living inside this mansion, the Tropical Club will get insights into Elda's mind, and Elda will get insights into the Tropical Club mind, and it will slowly start to bridge the gap between them.
I love it.
And that has been your
Doot final thought. Outro goes here.
Thanks everyone for listening, and don't forget to Tropica Shine.
PreCure.
Really quick.
Really slow.
Does the Tropical Club know that Chongi-re is a chef? Has he ever done anything chef-like in front of them?
No.
Okay. So if they get sucked into the dollhouse, maybe they discover Chongi-re is actually a really good chef. Like, maybe that's how they convert him. Someone tries his food and goes, this is the best food I've ever had, without knowing that Chongi-re was the one who cooked it.
I've been saying that from the beginning. Like, the Witch of Delays doesn't appreciate him, and the second Manatsu gives him any positive feedback, he'll switch to the side of good.
Ooh.
I ate your noodles before they went soggy.
Thanks, everyone. Ha-ha! What a great episode of King of the What Now, your One Piece podcast that started from the very beginning and stars these two doofuses. If you want to follow us on social media, Twitter is the best place to do that. I am at KOTWN_pod.
And I am at Pirate Ghost Host.
Absolutely, yes. We share all sorts of thoughts on there, some related to the podcast, some related to other things. But you can also reach us through email at kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com, or you can also find us on Patreon. We would love some subscribers or supporters, whatever the technical term is. Patrons. So fancy and grown up. And you can find that at patreon.com/kingofthewhatpod. You can find all sorts of things like bonus episodes, and you get to see the full cold open candidates, not just the ones that make it into the episode. Maybe someday if I learn to draw, I'll put stuff up there. We're always looking for suggestions and feedback. And speaking of which,
please take a moment to rate and review our podcast wherever you get us from. So iTunes, Spotify, Scrivener, that's for writing. But wherever you listen to our podcast, take a moment to leave a review. It helps other people find us. We are so grateful to all of our listeners, and we couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is super powerful, so if you have a friend who likes One Piece and they haven't heard of us, just direct them to the latest episode. And if they hate us, they can tell us why. And if there's an actionable item, we'll try to please you. That's how this works. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.